Where do I begin? Start with the artist and the art. Know your booth size, measure your art, pre-plan your hanging, know what fits where, price your works properly, and prepare taps signs.
We're at the J Shore Collection booth, and I wanted to show you this booth in particular. This is a single artist, and they have particularly well curated their display. You can see on exhibition the large pieces as well as some of the small pieces that Jay has created. On the back wall of the booth, you can really see statement pieces, large pieces that catch your eye, that are the focal point of the booth. And then on the side walls, the collection, more medium size and smaller pieces, also color coordinated, so that it's easy for a collector to stop, to look, and also imagine what those pieces together as a collection are going to look like in their home. So think about that. You also want to be sure, just like you see here, that each piece is properly tagged, and we call it taps: title, artist, price, and size. I want to introduce the audience to Elizabeth Reyes with Blink Group Gallery and Projects. And you know, one of the things we're talking about today, Elizabeth, is the planning and the development of your exhibition. As you start to think about doing a show, where do you start? Do you start with the artist? Do you know automatically who you're going to bring to the show? But how do you plan your booth with the artist?
It starts with the artist, actually. I start picking the artist that I'm going to bring. And when I start picking the artists, you start combining and seeing how you're gonna blend them together. Then when you have that, then you start thinking about the space you can put them in, because you want to have a space that they all can look great, every single piece of art. When I start putting the booth together, I will go back and forth with Spectrum, of course, and I start analyzing, okay, this is the size I need, this is the amount of artists that I have, and these are the amount of walls that I need. You want to make sure that everything is spaced out, right? And that people can enjoy each one of the artists in a really nice way, that they're aired out, the pieces, and they're at eye level. When I plan it out too, sometimes there's surprises. So don't go thinking it's all easy. You just try to go along, and then the day I get here, I usually sit out all alone and I look at the whole booth, and I'll see what walls I like and I don't. And you just have to mix it, just change it around. But pretty much you do have to plan it, and it takes a little bit of work. But once you get a rhythm of it, it just gets smoother and smoother with time.
So it all starts with, ideally for Red Dot this year, the theme was impact. So what are we going to think that we can contribute, not other to our artists or to our curatorial theme, but to the overall show? So having that in mind, we have 4 curated spaces here in the fair, and we selected different moments that we're living right now in society and the world. For instance, one of our areas is dedicated completely of works either inspired by women or the female figure, or created by female artists. The process starts several weeks or months before, thinking of which artists that we have within our roster can conform to what we want to talk about, what we want to show. Also, if the work is aligned and in sync to what we want to convey. So it all starts with the theme, and then talking to the artist, see what new subject or purpose they want to have with their work. And with that, we start selecting the work. After selecting the work, we mock up the whole floor plan. Us particularly, we do it in SketchUp. That gives us a way to literally recreate the whole show including all of the artworks to scale, so we can actually see beforehand what it's going to look like, how the layout is going to flow, and how people are going to perceive and appreciate what we'll be showing.
We're talking today about how you effectively hang your booth to maximize sales opportunities. And I just couldn't help but want to talk to you about the ideas that you had, the strategy that you had when you were planning your booth. Can you give us some insights to that?
Sure. Like I absolutely, like you said, it's nice to be able to have something kind of for every budget and every price point. I always like to have a large piece at the back of my booth, and I know that for me turquoise sells well, so it brings people in. But these little guys, which I call my little treasures, are always kind of those nice gateway pieces for people who are not quite ready to invest in something large. It's a fairly easy takeaway, and it's kind of nice because it can start the conversations with beginner art buyers too.
Well, the part that I really like about it also is if you had the luxury of a larger wall in your home, you could think about even creating a collection exactly like this as a overarching large installation.
And I have actually had people do that where they bought 21 of these pieces kind of going all the way up the stairs. But I think for me it's also in hanging the booth, I know the work is very bright and I want to make sure it doesn't appear being chaotic so people can kind of separate the individual pieces of art. So I like to kind of be fairly modular and not put too much stuff in there where it becomes kind of overwhelming.
Well, I do notice that. That's a really good point, that each piece seems to have its own breathing room, and yet at the same time, the pieces are complementary in the way that they're hung with each other.
Oh, good. That was the goal. And then the other thing is I always like to make sure that my marketing material matches the pieces that are here so that people have a really good sense. If they're looking at a whole bunch of other art and they get home at the end of the day, they can pick up my postcard and they can recognize, oh yeah, that's the piece I saw at this booth, and it kind of brings back that recollection.
Do not overhang. Think Warhol. Less is more.
What's the idea about, as Andy Warhol always said, less is more? What's the idea behind that?
Well, as you well said, Linda, it's not only about giving the artwork some space so people can actually appreciate it, but it's setting it up and curating in a way that when the collector or the enthusiast can visualize, this is how it may look in my space, depending on the size of the work. So for example, with Balance in this space, we are showing not only his larger format works, his more recent pieces, but also his sculptures and some smaller format work. How does this help not only showcase the work of the artist, but to the potential buyer or collector in all ranges? There might be, people in different budgets or ideas of how much they want to invest in a piece. This is why it is extremely important and suggest you plan carefully and not be shy or fearful of giving one piece enough room, because you always have the opportunity to show your buyer, well, we have this piece, but if you would like to see more of other work of the artist, then you can show them, in an iPad or in a book, and that doesn't limit you in the sense of what you can offer.
If I was an individual artist, this might be the way that I would display my art.
Absolutely. We should never overstack art. We should never put things way high or way low. You're not going to be looking up high to get a piece of art for your home, because you're never going to hang it up high, the piece. You're going to be hanging it at eye level. You're never going to put it down low, because nobody in the business is going to go squinting down to look at a piece of art either. So you have to make sure that the art is aired, because that's the way you're going to put it in your house. And you want to look at things, how it's going to look in your house. You got to remember, the art will make the house beautiful, but the home will make the art beautiful as well.
I'm just noticing this piece by Lucia Filippi, and it's one piece, but it's many pieces. And so it's kind of perhaps the same thing we were talking about, but a little bit of the opposite, in that it is so many pieces hung on one wall. Tell me about that.
Oh, it's all about the composition of how you do things. And when you have one piece that is like this and it's so intricate and has a lot to it, you got to make sure, again, it's about breathing. You got to let it breathe, but you got to put it that it's measured correctly and at eye level. even if it's here like this, it's at eye level. You go back, you can see it. It goes from the top to a little bit of bottom, but not too low either. And if it's going to be low, then you have to make it in the middle. It has to have breathing space in between it. It has to be measured correctly. It has to be balanced. You can get a little balancer, one of those that measures and sees how it's balanced. There's even an app for it. So there's no excuse that they don't have it. And you just measure everything and make sure that everything is equally spaced. You want to make things beautiful and make it appealing to the clients. Because that's the way they see it in their home. They're not gonna pile it up and make it all crooked and stuff. That's not how you want it in your house. So you wanna make it presented, the right way. So this is the perfect way. This is how they do it in the museums. This is how they do it in galleries. This is the way to do it.
The thing that I see in your booth, Arlette, is a wonderful mix of painting, mixed media, sculpture, and it flows so nicely. How do you make those decisions, and how does it affect your overall success at the show?
Hi, well, we put a lot of emphasis and time on the curation of the booth. We always try to make it balanced and everything to harmonize. So harmony for us is very important. So we give each artist a wall and a space for them to show 2 or more artwork, so people can see the quality and their work, not only with one but more artworks, and admire each one of them.
Well, my simple expectation is the people to enjoy it. I really want to give the people experience, aesthetic experience, and look at a nice piece of artwork, and ultimately for a collector to feel connected enough to purchase one of those pieces.
Do not block the entry into your booth. Be engaging, not focused on your cell phone or computer. Start the conversation with, "Tell me about your art collection." Don't be afraid to change it up to create additional interest.
If you see that the piece is not getting a lot of attention, then you change it before the art fair begins. Okay, so let's say one of the pieces is not doing well, then we go and we change the piece and we put another piece that will get more attention. If that piece goes, then we put another piece in.
Home shows have a 94% close rate.
The other thing, and I know you do this also, is if I like that piece, but I'm not sure if it fits in my home, would you bring it to me? And probably along with several other pieces, just in case that piece doesn't fit.
Correct. So making a decision of purchasing a work of art is always something that there's some buyers that are more impulsive and they will get it right there. Some others are a little bit more conservative and want to have the real feel of what it's going to look to have that piece in their home. Like Linda mentioned, we always offer to buyers, say, hey, no problem, without no commitment. We will bring the piece to you, we'll curate it for you, and also we will bring options. So if by any chance this piece doesn't fit, we ask for the range of space that they have within their home and bring at least 2, 3, or maybe more pieces. And to be completely honest, once if the person is already interested in the piece, already asked you for the information of the artist, is well with the price, it is highly likely that once the work is on the wall, they will envision it, they will love it more, and not only turn into one sale, but multiple sales, as it has in various occasions happened.
Follow up immediately with leads and the people who signed your guest book.
Now we know what you do before in terms of planning. We kind of have an idea of what happens at the fair. What happens afterwards?
You work like crazy in the art fairs and you make sure that it is worthwhile, everything and every bit of it. After that, we pack. If the client has not taken the art with them, then we make sure that it's packed correctly and everything is delivered or shipped to the client. Clients are first, always remember that. So we got to make sure that they are happy with everything. You close the whole business with them from the beginning to the end. And you make sure that you look good in their eyes. So word of mouth does everything for you. Always follow up with the clients. Following up is a very important thing. People will come back to you. You never know if somebody comes and looks at this and 6 months later they want that piece. So you have to, following up is a very important thing to do with every single client. So you gather emails and you just keep on contact with them, and they will follow you, and you will get a following, and people will come and buy from you. And like I said, the word of mouth. If you do a good service, you will get that client back with you.
So it is extremely, extremely important to follow up, to create a detail of who the person was, what artist or what piece they were looking at, where are they from, what tendencies they have. So when you're having the conversation with the potential buyer, you can pick up these phrases or you pick up this information, and that was gonna help you to not only give them the piece that they may want, but another. If they ask you to follow up on the following day, then you do it the following day. If they ask you to follow up next week, you want to be as precise as possible in terms of what, when, and where.
So we definitely, stay connected to everybody, not only to people that buy the art, but that also talk to us, and we follow up with them. That's one of the big important things that you do. You have to always follow up. So when you're talking to someone, even if they don't necessarily buy that during the show, there's a potential they could buy after the show. So we always have their information, and we call them and follow up with them.
Don't give up. Good luck, and here's to a great show.